a la sesión del curso internacional de diseño, implementación y evaluación de programas de intervención. El día de hoy tenemos la presencia de la doctora Lucy Levesque. Como podemos ver aquí en la imagen, voy a ser muy concreta. La profesora Lucy Levesque, primero que todo, es compañera de trabajo, de investigación. Ha sido mi mentora en la Universidad de Queens, Canadá. Ella trabaja en la Universidad de Queens en el área de Health Promotion, de promoción de la salud, y tiene muchos años de experiencia en relación específicamente a programas de promoción en la comunidad. Ella es experta en, bueno, no nada más en la comunidad, también en el aspecto de clínicas, porque de hecho se hizo un trabajo de investigación en el sector salud, en las unidades médicas. Tiene como su background psicología, en lo cual ella maneja muy bien las teorías y modelos cognitivos para intervenir cambios de comportamiento, aparte de conocer perfectamente el diseño de los programas. Es parte del grupo, fue parte del grupo Cambio, y colabora con profesores de los Estados Unidos. Se han hecho trabajos muy interesantes, y con Kenia. Es muy proactiva, muy abierta, y favorece mucho, es una gran promotora de la vinculación de la investigación en otros alares que no es Canadá. Eso es maravilloso, porque ella le gusta hacer mucha investigación con el grupo latinoamericano. Entonces, con mayor razón la apreciamos en este sentido, de que tenga tanto interés en ver lo que pasa en nuestra cultura latinoamericana. Entonces, me da mucho gusto presentar a la doctora Lucy Levesque. Le decíamos que es Lucía Levesque en español, pero es Lucy Levesque. Ok, y pues vamos a hacer el mecanismo siguiente. Tengo que avisarles que vamos van a ustedes, les va a aparecer, los que entiendan muy bien inglés, you keep it in English. So, pero los que estén que se sientan débiles y que quieran entenderlo, van a tener una opción de seleccionar español, y van a estar escuchando la traducción del temario. Al final, ya saben la mecánica, hacemos una sesión nada más de revisión del tema y resumen, ¿va? Pues sin más preámbulos, vamos a darle inicio a la sesión, y le vamos a dar la voz a la doctora Lucy Levesque.
Gracias, Edna, doctora Edna. Buenas tardes. I'm very happy to be here. And I just want to introduce myself a little bit more, things that are not on my bio sketch. So first, I want to tell you that I'm here from Canada right now, and the area of Canada that I am in is Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee territories. So that is the lands of the First Nations people who are here in Canada. And I'm from a European background, mostly from France, but my family has been in Canada for 300-400 years. So I would like to know, I see lots of familiar faces. I'm so happy to see you. I see Christina, Sergio, I see Ale. I don't know where you went. I saw you. Yeah. So, and if you're comfortable leaving your camera on, it's always so nice to see faces instead of a black screen. But I do have some slides to share, and I would like this session to be useful, and it's for you, it's not for me. So I do have some slides that I can talk through, but I would also really like to have some interaction with you if that's what you like. And I asked you to read 2 articles, and hopefully that was understandable. There was also the community toolbox that I was that I sent you, and there are lots of resources in Spanish, so hopefully that was helpful. So there's two main topics. There's logic models, and there's what we call an intervention analysis procedure. And these things go together, and they also go together with the ecological approach that I understand you saw and learned about last week. Is that correct? Yes? Yes. So here's what I can do. I can present some slides and talk a little bit, and you can talk with me. You can raise your hand, you can just unmute and say things. And then we could try to actually do more of an application and see how things work. And we could try to do a logic model together. It could be something that you're already working on, and just to try to see if you can actually apply the concepts. How does that sound?
Right.
Yes. So I understand that Dr. Etna is working very hard to translate me. So I'm going to try not to talk too fast. Are most of you listening to Etna or to me? English? Lots of nodding. Okay. Okay. That's good to know. All right. So I'm going, I also wanted to say, this is for Edna's translation. So I live in my house in, hiding from COVID, like all of you. And I have 3 sons. And so now only 2 sons live with me because my older son moved away, and I'm going to be a grandmother in September. That was for Edna. I was like, surprise. Okay, now let's talk. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. Screen 2. So do you see that slide? I can't see you, so somebody needs to. You don't see a slide?
No.
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 Okay. Well, let's see now. How do I get out of here? Screen 2. That's interesting. Okay, hang on. Oops. How about now? Yes? Is that a yes, Edna?
Yes. Yes, it's working.
Yes,
Okay.
I can.
Thank you. Sorry, a little bit of technology issues. Okay. So today, like I said, I'm going to start with logic models. I won't go over it too long, and I know you have access to the community toolbox, and you can get lots of good information there on all of the topics of this course, it seems. So how do we develop a logic model? What is it? Really, it's really a picture of your program. And it's something that we use a lot in health promotion programming. And it lays out what you're going to do in your program. And so a logic model is something you want to develop right at the beginning of your program. And it's informed by many models and theories. So if you're interested in this topic, I would encourage you to read about the precede proceed model. We don't have time to go into that today, but that's a planning model that is very, very helpful in health promotion. So when you develop a logic model, like I said, you're right. You're developing your map for your program. Whoops, what's happening here? Oh, why are the slides not moving?
Dr. Lucy,
Yes.
can you screen your, can you perform your screening in full form?
Oh, there. Oh, is it? Or no?
No,
Oh, I'm so sorry.
you have to,
Oh, okay, hang on. So you don't see what I see. I see it full screen. Okay, go ahead and tell me what I'm supposed to be doing here.
It's not full screen.
Now you must click on the beside to the 75% to see the full screen mode. Do you see the 75%, 41%?
I do
beside-
see that.
Okay. At your left.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it.
Yeah. Click
This?
there. Yeah,
This?
right there. Click there.
I am clicking. Nothing is happening. Aha. I'm so sorry. Fit or 100%?
Yeah.
Fit?
100% is the full mood. Yeah, this one. Click
Yes,
there.
I am clicking, but do you see me clicking?
It's because of the option on your sharing screen, Zoom configuration.
I don't know. Hang on. Oh, there. See, now it's there. What do you see right now? I'm hitting slideshow. I don't know if you can see me doing that.
We can just see the like not the slideshow, but the
The side, the sidebar. But
do
I'm
you have
hitting,
2 monitors?
I do.
Yeah, I wonder if it's trying to share the wrong one or something.
No. I'm sharing the right one. Okay, hang on. Good grief. Oh. What do you see now?
Same thing.
I don't understand. I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna just, I don't know, unplug my other monitor. Maybe that's the problem.
Maybe if you try stop the share, and then so you're sharing your whole desktop, maybe try share just the slideshow and see if that works.
Well, I'm sharing what I see, and so now I've turned off my other. Okay, so let's see what happens. Now I only have one screen, so presumably it's gonna only share this one. What do you see?
Oh, that's it.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Oh, so sorry. Good grief. Okay. And I'm so happy that this is all being recorded. So there's evidence of this forever now. Okay. Okay, so what was I saying? A logic model is your map, and you want to be thinking and holding your map before you leave for your trip, right? And usually when you have a map, you want to know where you're going, right? So it's very helpful to have an idea of your destination when you're developing your logic model. So if your goal is to, let's say, reduce obesity or prevent obesity in a population, let's just say in children, that is your end goal, right? That's where you're heading. And so you need your map to tell you how to get there. And so you need to know how you're going to go. And you also need to know what you're looking for when you arrive. So that means you're going to have to be thinking about and putting into place some markers. And that's what your logic model is going to help you do. So in a very simple format here, there's 3 main components, which are inputs, outputs, and outcomes. And we're going to break those down into smaller sections in a moment. But just to give you a good sense of what it is, in terms of the inputs, if let's say I want to plan a family vacation when COVID is all gone and I want to actually be able to go somewhere. So that's my destination. And I want to do this because, I want to get close to my family and have a good time with them. So that's where I'm heading. So on the end of my logic model in that pink box, that is the goal here. So that's the destination. So family members are going to learn about each other. There's going to be some family bonding and a good time. So those are the outcomes that we're seeking. If we move backwards at the very beginning, what do I need to make that happen? So I'm going to have some inputs. Right? I need my family members, first of all, to be able to get there and do that with them. I'm going to need some money. I'm going to need a budget. I'm going to need a car to go on a car trip, and I'm going to need some camping equipment. So all of those things, those resources that you use and need are what we call inputs. So these can be physical things. It could be money, but it could also be people. So if you work like Edna at the public health department, then it's the staff in the public health department. If you work in the community at the recreation center, then maybe it's your recreation staff as the people inputs. So anything that's upfront and that you need for your intervention is going to happen here. The outputs are what you do with your inputs in order to get to your destination. So it's going to be, for here, it's like you drive to the park. So what do you need to do to, once you have all these resources, what do you do with the resources to get you to your next step? So you need to get in the car, you need to drive. You need to set up a camp. You need to cook, play, talk, laugh in order to get those outcomes of bonding and a good time. So it's the in-between part. You're doing something with the resources, and those are your activities. In this outputs box, you have the activities that you're doing to get to your destination. You also have the engagement with the activities. So it's both the delivery of the activity and the receiving of the activity. Okay, that's where everything is happening, the interaction in that box that we call outputs. And that's going to get you to your outcomes. So there are lots of assumptions that we make when we draw a logic model. And, there's things in the example I just gave you, an assumption that I might make is that there's gas in my car. All right. An assumption that I'm making is that my kids want to actually come with me on this trip. Right. So there's lots of things that you just are going to assume that you already know. There's some things that you might not know. And This is not a talk about evaluation, but I would, maybe I'll come back and give you another talk someday. But what you would want to do when there are things you don't know up front is you want to do some formative evaluation. Maybe you'll need to do a needs assessment. That would be happening at the beginning of your program. But there are some things that you know, and that's what we call assumptions. So this is also kind of going into your logic model indirectly. All right, so now we're going to break it down just a little bit, and I want to talk to you about something really important. It's called if-then relationships. So this is a really good way to see if there is an interruption of logic in your logic model, because you should always be able to answer the question of what happens if. And the then that follows should be moving you forward through that logic model. So taking it from the inputs, the if is the investments, right? The resources that you have. So then the if is, if I invest those resources, then I can conduct the activity. So if I put gas in my car, I can drive my car to the campground. Right? So then if I drive to the campground, let's see, Alyssa, you might have to help me out here because I started on an example without thinking it all through. It's going to be hard to break down a car driving, really. So I'm going to bring it back to an example of a physical activity program. So if I have all the resources I need to run a physical activity program, an intervention, let's say I offer an opportunity to do a boot camp in the park. So if I have everything I need, I've got my equipment, I've got the park, I've got the people to come, I deliver my boot camp. So that's my activity. People show up and actually participate in my boot camp. That is the participation. So that is what I was talking about, is the interaction of the people, the intended audience with the intervention. So it's the engagement piece. Then if that happens, then I can get a short-term outcome. Maybe people's attitudes towards boot camps are positive. So maybe they think, this is the first time I tried boot camp. This is pretty good. I like it. And I didn't think I would. So now an attitude has changed, right? But if I'm trying to get people fit, and a change in attitude is not enough, right? It's a precursor to a longer term change. So maybe now it's going to be that they actually come back and they start going to boot camp regularly. And then maybe my long-term outcome is I wanted to give them better mental health. And at the long term, when they keep coming and they come regularly, all of a sudden their mood is improved, they're less depressed, they're in a better mood, right? So I'll walk you through it again. You had the inputs, everything you needed for your intervention. You conducted your intervention. People interacted with the intervention, and there was a series of outcomes. There was some short-term attitude change, medium-term behavior change, and a long-term is a condition or some kind of it could be a prevalence. It's some kind of outcome that is not a behavior. Okay. The reason I gave you a behavioral example is because typically, I think you probably have learned this in all your other classes, we know that things like attitudes and confidence, self-efficacy, those things are the shorter term changes that we seek in order to impact someone's behavior. And then the behavior usually is not the ultimate outcome. So fitness is not necessarily, well, fitness could be a longer term outcome, but you probably need to do something in order to get to that health outcome that you're seeking. Okay. Sorry, at the beginning I said fitness. Fitness would be health outcome. Physical activity is the behavior. Fitness is the outcome, right? So I'm going to stop here and ask you if you have any questions. And Etna's probably getting tired. Give Etna a talking break. Do you have any questions? No. Etna, do you have a question? Okay, I will keep going. Okay, so that's just another example of this. I'm going to slip that. So so I can share my slides with you. I can send these to Etna if you would like them and break it down more. I don't need to go through this whole box again, but it can be a variety of things. I'm guessing that if there's no questions, it's pretty clear what inputs are. Outputs are that in between activities and the participation, so the engagement with the activities. And the outcomes can be short, medium, long term. So here, depending on what you are seeking to achieve, sometimes you can break it down to even more intermediate, smaller goals. So you don't always have to have 3. Sometimes you could have just a short-term outcome and a long-term outcome, but sometimes there might be several steps in order to get you to that long-term outcome. So there could be things that you're interested in and that you measure at a whole bunch of different steps along the way. Okay, so why do you want to do a logic model? Like I said, it's a map. It helps you know where you're going. And so when you have this map, then it's also easier for you to share with other people. And so it provides a common language. And this is a good way to, if you're working with a health promotion team, to say, okay, here's how I see it. What, do you agree? It helps us distinguish what we do from the actual results. So when you break it down like that, you can see the activities versus what you're hoping to achieve. And that really will help you with your evaluation plan. It helps you understand your program and focus your work and lead to your planning and to your management, and really gives you a purpose. It'll also help you see, if you can carry it through, because of course, layered onto this, you will have to think about timing and feasibility. And, again, so it really helps to have it all laid out for you so you can have a really good understanding of what's in front of you. And it can guide, prioritization, allocation of resources. It can be used to motivate staff and certainly identify what's most important and how to best use your resources and to allocate. It also supports replication. So if you want to do it again, you'll know what you did. It also would allow you to make any adjustments along the way. And you're going to see, I think I'll mention it later. You're going to see that there's opportunities for different types of evaluation all along the way. And your logic model will also help you pinpoint where and what you should be assessing in terms of an evaluation plan. So what do logic models look like? They can look like whatever you need it to look like. So a very typical one is what I showed you. It's a very linear model, but there's lots of ways to draw it. It could be a circle. It could have way more steps along the way. It could be more simple, really depends. There's a lot of examples on the community toolbox. So I would encourage you to take a look at them. Here's one. It's a little bit more complex. This is where you're able to see the different types of assessment that could be conducted at the different steps of your model. As I mentioned previously, in the beginning, you might need some information before you develop your program or as you're developing it, right? You might want to know the best way to do it. So the type of evaluation we do at the front end of a program is called formative evaluation. You might do a needs assessment. You might do what's called asset mapping. And so that's where you're trying to figure out, okay, what is it that I have access to? What do I have to put in my program? You know, maybe I have some really good relationships. So those would be some important assets. Maybe if I want to run a program in the school and I happen to know, you know, some teachers, that's an important asset, those relationships. If I have access to the basketball court as at the school, that could be an asset too, right? So, and it would be important for me to be able to know that. So I could want maybe do an observation of the physical environment. And there's lots of tools to do that. And I know some of you are working on projects that do that, right? Where you're using like the Para, for example, where you can go in a park and do some observation of the environment to figure out what could support physical activity, right? So anything you do, that kind of evaluation to inform your program is what we call formative evaluation. And it's happening at the beginning. Another important type of evaluation is what we call process evaluation. And so that's going to happen a little further into the model. That's going to help you figure out what is occurring in this outputs box. So if you're offering some kind of an intervention, so the activities here, you want to know, are people, you know, how are they being delivered? If I said I'm going to do 3 boot camp classes a month, how am I going to know if that's happening if, let's say, my program staff are delivering that, right? Maybe I need to go and observe them. Maybe I need to go check if they're doing it. Maybe I need to look at how long they're doing it. Maybe if the boot camp class is supposed to be an hour, one of the things we need to pay attention to is if it's being delivered as according to the plan. So a process evaluation will help you get at that. The main goal of a process evaluation is to figure out if you've actually implemented what you said you were going to implement. So did your program actually run the way you said it was going to run? And that's really important to know, because you have to, when you try to figure out whether or not your program was successful, you need to know what happened during. Okay, so process evaluation is really going to tell you what's happening during, and also how people are engaging. So that's that interaction. You can deliver a boot camp and nobody shows up. So you could have good delivery, but no participation, right? So you need to know if that's happening too. So that's going to be another part of your assessment, is looking at the engagement. And that when you start to look at that, that's what we start to call outcome evaluation over here. Okay, so there was an activity that was delivered, people engaged, and now I want to know what happened. Did their attitudes change short term? Did their behavior change medium term? Did they become fit long term? So there's opportunities for different types of evaluation all along this continuum, right? So that's what you're going to be thinking about when you're developing your logic model. This map will also help you determine what you need to measure and when you need to measure it, because the indicators here at these different steps of evaluation are all different. And at each time you're interested in a different thing. Here you want to know about delivery and receiving the program. Was it delivered? How was it received? Here you want to know, what do I have to run my program? What goes in it? Here you want to know what happened. You know, what happened when the people engaged? What are the outcomes? So as I said, I mean, we're not really here to talk about evaluation. I just wanted to point out that the usefulness of the logic model in helping you then map out your evaluation. Because of course you want to know all this before you start, right? Because it has a lot of implication for the resources you're going to invest, like for the time and for the costs, of course. Every decision you make in your program plan is going to have some kind of a cost. So you need to know that from the beginning. This is a picture of a program, health promotion program cycle. And it's usually always the same. You have some kind of health issue that you want to address. Let's say it's, like I said, fitness. You want to get people fit. So you need to do that formative evaluation. The logic model, is happening in the program design phase. So early on, you're implementing, you're evaluating what happened, and then usually it goes back into a circle and you might want to do a readjustment. So the program, it's in the program design phase that you're working on this logic model right at the beginning. Okay, so we have a logic model. We're going to say that's kind of one of our ingredients. You learned about the ecological approach. So now you have this new set of glasses, and hopefully you see the world now in all its multiple layers, right? Is this something you saw last week, maybe? Does this look familiar? Something like this?
Yes.
The Dr. Lee talked about? Okay. So you have the individual level, and that's where you're talking about those knowledge, skills, attitudes, what's inside the person. At the interpersonal level, friends, family, so it's that social level, but people who are really close to you. Organizational level, that can be your teachers, it could be somebody who works at the local gym, it could be somebody who works at the library. And the community is larger scale. It could be community members. It could also be like a coalition, right? And then the policy system is everything else that's around you. These are things that we don't always see, but they're impacting our behavior, right? So laws and rules. And I know that you already saw all that, and I just wanted to give you a reminder to keep those glasses on. And to think about an intervention analysis mapping. So that's what we're going to talk about right now. So what this is doing is putting together your program planning and your ecological approach. And the logic model is a good way to lay it all out. So the second article that I asked you to read is about applying this ecological thinking to an intervention program. And a program can be thought about in terms of targets, settings, and strategies. So targets are what you're aiming your intervention at. So your targets can be any of these ecological layers. Some of our interventions aim to change people directly. And I would say, I mean, there's people at all these levels, because even when you want to change a law or a policy, there's a person who's the boss of that policy, right? So you have to influence a person for sure. But we do have different goals when we're intervening at these different levels. And we want to keep in mind that our interventions will be more effective if we can engage more levels, right? So the more opportunities that a person has to encounter the same message about a behavior, the more likely they are to engage in that behavior. So if you create an environment and impact an environment, so, social, right here, this is your social, and then your physical and policy environment, then the more likely that person can change. So your interventions can happen at any of these levels. A lot of our interventions tend to focus on the individual, because that's usually the easiest level to impact. But there's really a good case to be made for targeting the other levels. So all of our targets are those ecological levels. And these targets are in different settings. So settings are also an important component of your interventions. You want to be thinking about where people are in order to intervene on them. And then you want to think about the types of strategies. So I'm not going to go into all the details here. Again, I just want to kind of give you the reflex of seeing your interventions by using these tools. So at the individual, so like I said, the targets are the individual. So the summed up as IND, INT for interpersonal, organizations, communities, and POL is political. Settings can be organizations, communities, societies, and supranational systems. So here you could think of, this is like the UN, if you wanted, or the World Health Organization. That's a really high level. Not many of us are intervening at that level, but some interventions do happen at that level. Most of the actions that we do as health promoters are happening at these two levels, organizations and community level, right? In those settings. So examples of these types of interventions at the individual level would be things like a personal training service, health education. That's a big one that we do, providing people with some kind of a workshop or training or a website or teaching. These are all individual level interventions. So we're really good at that because this is where we're most comfortable. This is also the place where you're going to get faster change. At the individual level, you can probably have an impact in a shorter time frame than you can at a political level, for example, right? So we often focus at this level. At the interpersonal level, so what are we talking about here? How do you influence the interpersonal environment? What does that look like? So this could be opportunities that are available for families or for couples or groups. It could be, here they're giving an example of like an exercise class. And if a goal is to influence people and to get them there to support each other, that's an interpersonal intervention. Offering small incentives for families to work out together, for example, that would be considered an interpersonal level intervention. Organizations. So here, this is a type of intervention that we can do as well, and that happens more often. This is something changing an organizational environment or an organizational player. And what I mean by that, I use the expression the hat that the person is wearing. So a person wearing an organizational hat. A teacher is a person who is wearing their organizational hat. That teacher, of course, can also be a parent. So sometimes you might target a teacher if you're targeting them as a friend, or sorry, as a parent, because they have a child that you want to influence. Then you can be targeting the same person as an interpersonal target rather than an organizational target. So I find that the idea of figuring out what hat a person is wearing when you're trying to influence them, that can help you determine what kind of a target they are, right? So there's lots of different ways to influence an organization, and you can think about things like offering somebody a longer lunch hour, right? So if you're a health promoter and you say, I want people in this organization to be physically active, well, maybe I'm going to go convince their boss to give them a longer lunch hour so they can go and work out during lunch. So that's an example of an organizational intervention that is going to influence those people, those workers there, but by offering them a longer time for their lunch hour, right? So that's not, I don't have to do something to influence them directly. I'm going to talk to the boss, right? So that's an example of an organizational level intervention. So I don't want to go on and on, but this is the same idea that you can target the community for change, right? You can maybe build a bike path. You can build a walking trail. That's an intervention that is going to help those people in the community get active. So when we, and same at the policy level, and probably to build that bike trail, you probably have to influence a politician. So you might have to do some lobbying. So that's an intervention at the policy level, right? So when you think of putting a whole program together, you want to be thinking about all these layers of influence. And if I ask you to think ecologically and to think of all those possible targets, and then to put them all in a logic model, taken together, you will have your master plan for your program. So what I wanted to do right now is see what that looks like and how, thinking of it with all those components. Let's see what I can do here. So if we try to build a logic model together, that's what I would like to do. I don't know, are you working on some other, like a project right now? Is there someone who's doing an intervention or developing a program, something that we could use as an example and to get us started, and we could try to work on it together? Somebody, I know everybody is staying home, probably it's COVID, but
I'm working in a program for women that is in the stage of menopause.
okay.
To get them feel better emotional and physical active.
Okay. All right.
I'm trying to implement this in a hospital, but I find some barriers, like the physicians just let the tall women make exercise, but they didn't say what kind of exercise. So that's why I'm implementing that.
Okay. That's going to be great. So can we use that as an example, Claudia?
Of course.
Okay. So let's try to build that logic model. So the end goal is it mental health? You said it, to reduce depression?
Yeah, well, it's kind of mental health, but physical health too, because we try to reduce osteoporosis. Okay. I don't know how they say osteoporosis.
Okay, no, that's exactly how we say it. So the ultimate goal is a reduction in osteoporosis.
Yeah, and also depression, also fatigue, also how do you say, sleep at night?
Yeah. To be able to sleep. Yeah. Okay. So overall health, good health, physical and mental, right?
Yes.
Okay, but the focus is osteoporosis, but of course there's all these other good things. And the way you want to get there is physical activity, right?
Yes.
That's the main intervention. Okay. And you said, okay, I don't know if I could do this. Alyssa, are you able to get, let's see now. If you go to the top of your screen, are you able to access and annotate?
Looks like it's letting me do it. Do you want me to write while you talk, or?
Yeah, well, you and I think anyone can annotate. So
cool.
Without this being a free for all, I just wanted to know what you see and how you can do that and how we can tell people to do that. So
Oh, that was me. Yeah, I just wanted to see if it worked.
Well, that's not a good logic model.
Sorry.
So yes, we can write. So I have a blank screen here. If you want to try, Claudia, I don't know if you want to try, or if I don't know, maybe you're not on a computer. If you can try, we can build a logic model together. And so I would start with the outcome here is going to be, let's just say it's good health, right? So, oh my gosh, look at that. I can't even write health. Woohoo! It would have been, okay, that's really bad. That's like it looks like a kindergartner did that. Okay. Maybe I should use a box here. There, Christina, good health. Ah, there we go. Okay, you know what? I knew I should let you guys do this. Okay, inputs or pout. You might not be happy, so you might pout. That's good. That's okay. So what would the inputs be? So that's our ultimate goal. Let's try to build the middle part. So what do we have in your program, Claudia? What do you have to work with? What are the inputs?
Maybe first with the hospital.
Okay, so there's
the physicians who attend women with menopause.
Okay,
and
so,
of course the women in menopause.
Yeah, okay. What else? So, and where is this program happening?
Right now it's online, of course.
Yes. Okay, let's pretend there's no COVID. Where should this program be happening?
It's in the hospital I'm working with, the University Hospital of Puebla.
Yes. Okay, but where would they exercise the women?
It's in the hospital.
In the hospital too. Okay.
Yeah, they have.
Is there a gym? Gym equipment?
No, there's not a gym.
Okay.
We are trying to make some exercise that woman can reproduce in her own house. That's
okay. Okay. So there's some staff?
Yes.
In your program?
Yes. There's a staff. There's.
Christina, are you helping me out here? Christina had put the hospital. Can you put some staff in there, Christina, if you don't mind? Or Adriana? Okay, good. You can write it in Spanish too if you want, right? Just whatever. So what else is there? So there's some hospital, there's some staff, there's what other resources?
Women, the patients.
The patients, yeah. What else are resources here? Is there money for this program? Is somebody paying for this?
No, right now. No.
Well, there's time, like your time, right? Material. Okay.
Time, yeah.
Time is a resource. Time is a very important resource. You could put time in there too. Okay, so we have some inputs. And now what I heard you say that was very interesting is that the physicians, it sounds like they're a potential intervention target here because they have influence over these women, right? So in your activities, if you're going to do an intervention, would you maybe want to give some kind of a workshop to the physicians?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, so we need some kind of a health education, some kind of an education training, some training for these physicians. So that's going to be in our next box. This is going to be, we're going to, in the outputs, in the activities. We want to influence the physicians. So what else are you going to want to do directly with the women themselves? Do you need to teach them how to do the exercises?
Yeah, of course, the first we do it's an evaluation of the physical skills, of the mental skills.
Yeah, so a fitness assessment maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we show them how to work out.
Right. Okay. So, okay. So it sounds to me like you have 2 different ecological targets in your program so far.
Yeah, and
Right.
in this investigation, we have 2 stages. First, we applied a questionnaire to the physician so we can learn about how the physician treat this. Almost all physicians treat the menopause with some pills, drugs.
Okay.
So we do first, then we put the workout in process.
Okay. So it sounds like you did some formative evaluation. You found out what the physicians are doing, and that's super helpful to know what you need to do. And it sounds like you've concluded that they need some kind of training, because they don't seem to necessarily know that there's other ways to intervene here, right?
Yes.
And, okay, great. So when we go back to our ecological thinking, there is an individual level, right? The women, right? That's an individual level intervention target. And then there's the physicians, and they're very important as an intervention target, because they're going to really influence what happens to these women, right? For them to be able to promote physical activity, we need to let them know that there's alternatives to prescribing drugs in order to get these women active. So in your activity, so in the outputs, there's, as I said, there's activities, and then there's participation. So you could design here 2 activities. One is perhaps, teaching the women how to use dumbbells, right? To do some weight training perhaps, or to do, to use some exercise bands, things that they could do at home. So you're going to teach the women, and then you're going to teach the physicians. You're going to give them some education. Maybe you're going to tell them all about the evidence for, physical activity versus a drug prescription, something like that. Then our next step in the logic model, still within that outputs box, is you want your targets to engage with these activities, right? So what does that look like? What does that look like? So if you have an intervention for the women, increase their confidence in performing exercise, on their own at home, right? So
yes.
Okay, so in terms of participation, still in that output box, you want them to engage. So they need to show up to your workshop in order to get the intervention, right?
Yes.
And in the same way, if you offer a training session for physicians, they need to show up and get the training. And for you, if you're the health promoter, you need to know if all this is happening. So you need to be assessing this. You need to be conducting a process evaluation in order to determine what is happening in this output box. So maybe you want to go and do some observation. Maybe you want to do a survey. You want to see what is happening. Is my program being implemented as planned? Did the women show up for this workshop, right? Yes, thank you, Adriana. Okay. I think we're getting it. Then our next box is the outcomes box. Thank you. And here, in the short term, what could be the outcomes that you're seeking to achieve in the women? What's your activity, your intervention trying to do in the short term?
Maybe changes in how they feel first,
Yeah.
and they changes in if they can sleep better, if they feel less hot. I don't know, how do you say bochornos in
hot
English?
flashes.
Hot flashes, yeah.
Right.
And that's the beginning, because when we put this exercise or this training, the changes almost were in 1 week, talking about the feeling of the women. Of course, in the physical outcomes, maybe will last longer.
Okay. Okay. So I want this. So this is good. I'm glad we're having this conversation. So what you've described is if you say maybe they're going to sleep better or their hot flashes are going to diminish. If we come back to that if then logic. So your activity here is you're teaching them, let's say you're teaching them how to do physical activity, right? Is an outcome of their physical activity directly related to like a reduction in hot flashes, or did you say that the way they think about it?
The way they feel about it, because we know that hot flashes maybe is hard to reduce with exercise because it doesn't depend enough. It depends on nerve system, but the way they feel about that.
When you, okay, I'm just sorry. Do you mean when you say the way they feel about it, do you mean their attitude?
Yeah, the attitude and the emotion.
Okay. So I'm just wondering if that is an outcome of your activity, your physical, you're teaching them about physical activity, or if that's maybe a different intervention where you're giving them information.
Well, I think it is because of the exercise, because they change the way of think about how do they feel, because in the survey that we make, we ask about how do they feel about her own body, the hot flashes, they can sleep all night.
Yeah.
So then they change their feeling about that, because we have two kind of measures: the physical measures and the survey.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So so what I'm suggesting is, I think that if I was drawing this logic model, I would say that you probably have a couple of activities that are happening at the individual level. Maybe you're giving women what we call, education information, and then you're also giving them something that builds their skills. So I would put those on different lines, just because when you come to measure things at the end, when you want to know the outcome of your intervention, you want to be able to distinguish what led to what. So if it sounds like you're probably doing a bunch of things, and I bet you if we actually sat down and mapped this out, you would probably have several activities that are aimed at the women, and then maybe different things aimed at the doctors, or maybe you're just doing one thing for the doctor, but then the women get different things. You just want to make sure that you're picking everything up at the evaluation level. So in the short term, it sounds like you want a change in their attitudes, and that can lead to better sleep. And then better sleep can lead to better health, right? So that's that if then. If I deliver an information session, then they can come and attend. If they attend, then their attitude can change. If their attitude changes, then they can, sleep better. If they sleep better, then they have better health, right?
Okay, yeah.
So the physicians, let's just do the physicians. So now they're getting this workshop, and let's say they attend the workshop. So then that's the participation. What happens once they attend the workshop? What's the short-term outcome of that?
Okay, maybe they doesn't prescribe drugs.
Yeah.
Maybe they prescribe exercise, or lead the people to a person that already knows how to prescribe exercise, because I think physicians doesn't do that.
Right. So what prescribing exercise, that's a behavior, right? So do you think maybe before they change their behavior, what could be in between the information you give them in the workshop and their behavior change? Could there be something in between there?
Maybe some kind of investigation that they make of their own to prove the information I'm giving them. I don't know.
Well, let's say they believe you. Maybe they don't have to go investigate. Let's say they believe what you taught them at the workshop. What's going to be like, what could you do right? Like, what do you think right away? Walking out of the workshop before they even see a woman and decide how they're going to intervene with her. What happened after the workshop? What did they get in the workshop?
So maybe they rethink the prescription they are usually doing.
Right. So maybe they change their attitude. Maybe now they have different knowledge, right, as a result of that workshop. So these are things that you changed, and these are the things that can change really, really fast, right? You can give someone one workshop and now they know something that they didn't know. So knowledge has changed. So that's something that can change very quickly. And that could be something you want to assess right away, right? That's a short-term outcome that could lead then to them changing their prescribing behavior, which is one of the things you're hoping to achieve. And all of this because you want to have an impact. Your main outcome here is about the good health of these women. It's not about the good health of the physician, although, you know, we would be happy if they were healthy too, but that's not what this program is for. This program is for these women. And so these interventions, so this is an intervention that's happening at an organizational level. You can build it in and you have, you know, you're using some of your inputs, you're doing activities, there's engagement, and then there's some outcomes that are happening at the physician level in order to have an impact on these women's health. So again, this is, you know, I'm saying it's in a simplistic way, but your whole intervention, your whole map is the way to put together all these elements of this ecological approach using this, you know, logic model format, and layering on what you're going to do in terms of an intervention and how you're going to assess it. So the reason, you know, that you're doing your evaluation is because you want to know, did it work, right? So that outcome evaluation is all about figuring out, did my intervention work? Did my program work? And the process evaluation, what happened in between, trying to figure out how it happened, that is going to be so valuable, because if your answer to your to the did it work is no, you need to go back now to see what could have gone wrong, right? You don't want to run this program exactly the same if it didn't work. So if you're able to see where the issue is, then you know what you change. Maybe the problem is the workshop, something in the physician workshop. Maybe it's everything you did with the women and the you know, how you taught them to change exercise, the information you gave them about hot flashes and exercise. Maybe that worked really well. That wasn't the problem, but there was something with the workshops and the physicians. And so now, you know, by doing this kind of a map, you know where you need to change or what you need to keep, right? It really helps you make decisions about your program when you break it down to these levels. What else? I think that's mostly what I wanted to do here. Are there any questions, or is there something else you would like to do in terms of an activity? Etna, is there something else you would like to talk about? I can stop sharing my screen and we can actually see people.
Thank you very much. Also, this was a very good example to understand what you were talking about. Thank you so much.
Thank you for providing that example, Claudia.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yes, Luis.
It's related to this model. And the question is, how can I identify where is the mistake or where is the wrong in order to change it?
Sorry, how can you find out what's wrong?
Yes. In which part of my logical model is the mistake?
Well, so you have, it's really the evaluation. And as I mentioned, you can assess almost every component of your logic model. And so first you need to know what's happening at the end, what you were hoping to achieve. And I would say without doing any kind of that process evaluation, you're not going to know what happened or why it happened. And you know what? Even if your program works, you're still not going to know what in your program worked, right? So this is why it's that process evaluation in between that's going to help you. It's not perfect. Sometimes it is very difficult, but you can get hints at where things are breaking down. So it really depends. If you could give me an example of your program, maybe we could play with it in the same way we played with Claudia's. Do you have something in mind, Luis?
Well, I'm planning to do a online physical program for women with fibromyalgia or fibromyalgia. I don't know how can I pronounce it in English. And sorry, can you hear me?
I don't hear everything. I didn't hear what your program is about.
Okay, let me change my earphones.
Oh, okay. Christina, did you understand what his program's about? The topic?
The program is about fibromyalgia.
Oh, fibromyalgia. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I am planning to design an online program for these women in order to enhance their fitness level and health quality.
Okay. So how do you plan on doing that? Are you doing, let me guess, you did a literature review?
Yeah. Recently, I did a review.
Yeah. Okay. And then what else? Where are these women?
Well, it's not a specific group because the pandemic is difficult to find a specific group for me. But it's I'm planning to maybe after COVID to get a group here in Mexico, in Monterrey.
Okay. Okay, but you said you're doing it online first, no? Or
yes. Well, now I'm planning an online program.
Okay. And so who are these women? You say women with fibromyalgia. And are you just hoping to put something out in cyberspace and hope that women will come? Or do you already have an idea of where these women are? Like, is there maybe an organization where they already get information? Is there something like that?
Well, I want to check on Facebook what kind of organizations we have in Mexico with those people, and try to send information related to my program and try to get in contact to them. And after, well, I want to send some questionnaires, try to know more about them, if they have, if they want to or sorry, if they have near of their house physical program or not, if they are interested to get a physical program, to get into a physical program.
Right.
And after that, try to create videos or some kind of that stuff in order to send them. And well, that's I have now.
Okay. So that's great. So it sounds like you've done some formative evaluation, right? You surveyed them before it started. So that's that front end stuff that I was talking about, and that is great because those are the two main pieces of the start of your logic model is looking in the literature. What do we know that other people have already learned? Because you don't have to start from scratch every time, right? What do we know from other people's mistakes? What does the evidence say? So that's one important part. And then what do we know about these particular women? Because, there's no one size fits all. So if you already have a target population, these women, you did absolutely the right thing, surveying them, get information from them, right? When, what would they like to see in this program? When are they available, right? Maybe if you say, I'm going to do something live on the internet on Friday at 6 p.m. and everybody says, well, that's a bad time because that's when I'm drinking my margarita, so forget it, right? So, but if you offer it on, Saturday morning at 11 o'clock, that's perfect, right? So your survey will give you that kind of information, but then maybe you also want to say, well, you're going to be exercising at home. What kind of equipment do you have access to, right? Do you have space? Do you have good internet, right? So all that stuff can be used for you to design your program. Because if you find out that, okay, I don't know, when most of the women live in a very small apartment, then maybe, they can't be doing whatever, something that takes up lots of space, right? So it's going to be important for you to have all that information. So right there, I would say your chances of a successful program are better than if you don't talk and get no information from the women. So far you've done an excellent job. So then what you want to be doing in your process evaluation is seeing, let's say you're doing some kind of online program, you want to see, are people coming? Are they engaging? Right? And so a very simple way is either you can see it, like right here, Etna can see how many people showed up to her class, right? So that's one indicator. Another indicator could be whether or not the women are moving during the program. Maybe you say, okay, well, they need to keep their camera on so I can see if they're doing it correctly, right? So these are all the things you want to look during. You could also do a survey just to see how they like the program. So this is not, is it having an effect on their fibromyalgia? This is just, what do they think of the program, right? The sort of like a satisfaction, customer satisfaction, right? That's a way to see if your program, how it's going early on. Because if you just say, I'm going to assess the pain that they have, if you don't know whether or not they engaged in your program, then you cannot connect those things, right? You can't, just because they're signed up to your program, and then if you go measure their fibromyalgia in 6 months without having any information on whether or not they showed up at your program, I mean, obviously that's a very basic, logical thing, but that's a way for you to kind of figure things out. If you see maybe all the women come the first 3 sessions and then they stop coming after 3 sessions. So then you can say, what is going on? Maybe there's something in your 3rd session that everyone hated and then they never came back. Or maybe that's when the latest telenovela started, and now and everyone now is just really watching this show, and you lost them all because the telenovela is way better than Luis's fibromyalgia program. I don't know, but you know, like, so you just want to be kind of checking in both in terms of your own delivery of, you know, what is being delivered, how are people interacting with that, and do it regularly along the way before you go and look at that long-term outcome, right? Because often, RCTs, which I'm not saying that they're a bad thing, but, you know, randomized controlled trials, they're very, very concerned with the main outcome, but they don't always get that information of in between along the way. And that's how you're going to know where something maybe, you know, did not go right, and that you can make that adjustment, right? So
Okay,
I don't know.
for example, I have an idea. In order to get that information, I can design a questionnaire in order to ask them, well, what about their opinion related to the program, what are the positive things that they see or the bad things, in order to, well, realize if the program is going to be successful after some months, or I have to change something, and not to wait until the end.
Right, totally, yeah, because maybe there's something you can adjust along the way, right? Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Lucy.
You're welcome. Are there any more questions? Edna, I don't know how long you were hoping that we would all hang out together.
Yes.
Sorry, what?
Doctora Edna, voy a quitar la interpretación para que pueda unirse.
I think she's unable right now to change the traductor mode. So she's
stuck.
Hello.
Hola, Edna.
Hola. Okay. Yes, we are on time, but it was a good example. Gracias por muy buen ejemplo. Lucy, and thanks for reminding us the very important aspect of formative evaluation. Fue muy importante que nos recordaras el formative evaluation. I don't know, you have more comments about that. They have to read your documents, they unpack the box that we have of knowledge, of the information, of course. Por ejemplo, sí tenemos que pedir que revisen la información y que vayan ustedes revisando, y que no se les olviden los 3 puntos. If you're allowed, Lucy, would you mind to ask them which are the 3 ingredients, main ingredients, to put it in the logic model? It's a question for the audience.
The 3 main ingredients.
Please, someone remind us which are the 3 main ingredients.
Targets, settings, and strategies.
Oh, good. Okay.
Of what? Of what? The 3 main ingredients of?
Are 1.
Of what?
Of an intervention.
Of an intervention. Okay, I thought she said of a logic model. Okay.
Okay.
See, I would have gotten it wrong, Christina.
She said so quickly. La dijo muy rápido, rapidly. So anyway, thank you, Lucy. If you have another comment or send a test or something, you're
a test. No test. It's
no,
Friday night.
No, not Sam. Okay, perfecto. Okay. I hope to see you soon. I will like to invite you from Mexico with a margarita, but
oh my gosh.
Wait. We have to wait. So thank you very much for your
Thank
practical presentation. I really appreciate it. Logical model is very nice for us in the real works very well. It should. So thank you. And so I will just, you have another comments? We will see you tomorrow.
Oh my goodness. These poor students, you have them working so hard. So, okay, I just want to just remind you this. I don't know if you had a chance to look at the community toolbox, but there's a lot of resources in Spanish there, and it's very useful.
Sí, por favor, revisen la información. Está en español. Yo les hice unas diapositivas a ustedes, se las voy a hacer llegar por correo del resumen de estos resources, de estos recursos que están en español para que ustedes los tengan, ¿va? Porque esto es muy importante, el modelo lógico. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I want to remind you.
Okay, y nos quiere recordar.
That when COVID is over, you need to come to Canada.
Okay. Por supuesto.
Okay.
We love Canada. Amamos Canada.
Yes. And you know, maybe you want to do a PhD, maybe you want to, come and study or just come and hang out. So you just let me know. Por favor,
jóvenes, Canadá está abierto. La doctora Lucy está a toda disposición. Es muy abierta, por favor, todos son estudiantes, sé que tienen muchísimos intereses, tienen muchas preguntas. Vamos, hay que conectarnos con toda la confianza, ¿ok?
All right.
Entonces, esperamos que de la audiencia salgan algunos ahí interesados y se comuniquen con la doctora Lucy Lebec. Okay, gracias. Buenas